When I came into ministry, we were all just called ministers. These days, we have words stuck in front of the term minister, like contract minister, consulting minister, developmental minister, settled minister, interim minister. They're becoming rare as hen's teeth, by the way. This past spring, one of the reasons Bonnie and I stepped forward out of retirement was that this so-called transitions office at the UUA said that they were missing 40 ministers for interim positions. The congregation in Austin that I alluded to this morning, congregation of 600 members, couldn't match with an interim minister. So one of the things to keep realistic about here is that there's at least a temporary scarcity of UU ministers around the country. And that means that there's actually good news and bad news in that. Bonnie and I have agreed to stay with you for the next 18 months at least. I don't think before that you would be in a position to mount a search for a settled minister. Sustainably, you really do need about 150 members to attract a full-time minister. And once you say it's a less than full-time position, while the cost may be lower, the number of candidates available is also considerably lower. You're really talking about people who are here in the area already. And at the lowest levels of part-timing, the search is not really handled by the national office. It's handled by regional staff. And that's more or less the way Bonnie and I connected here, although I have to give Reverend Dara a big shout out. She was so responsible that she wanted to poke around and see if people like me could be interested before she gave you the news that she really needed to tend to her family and relinquish her pastoral responsibilities. So, you know, I think the other thing that you should assume is that Bonnie and I will be similarly responsible. We are not going to abandon you. You will be ministered unto through this process, one way or another. Health lasting and so forth. I have to confess to you that my wife and I are now in the serious search for a continuing care retirement community. My wife is almost 5 years my senior. She turns 80 this year. I'm just not in great health. So understand you're working with fragile human services in ministry, and we're just going to help you do the best we can. I really am gratified by the fact that the membership in this survey intuited how important it is to grow the membership. And I want to lift up the fact that, boy, do I ever see it happening. I mean, there must have been 10 prospective members here this morning. Diana, you do a fabulous job of making sure that everybody who comes through here is properly greeted. We're going to tighten up a few things, like making sure that they're all asked for a pledge as soon as that they're reminded of how much they pledged at certain key moments so that the payments, Casey, are more regular and predictable. These are things that I'm going to be the consulting minister who pays attention to this challenging process of really renovating the building. Bonnie is really going to hone in on things like RE, pastoral care, the quality of human interactions generally. It is just tremendously important that we remember that the stewardship of morale in a group precedes the stewardship of money. And I have to commend you, Jody, you get it, about how important it is that people feel honored, welcome, thanked, and that the group takes care of one another. Now, I have to say, I did think that the average pledge level here is not as high as it could be. So guess what? The next time I preach here, it will be the infamous Sermon on the Amount. And the question will be, which comes first? Generosity or the growth of the congregation? And the title, The Chicken and the Egg. All of these things are interconnected. It's wonderful to have a meeting like this where we recognize that there may be 5 developmental goals, but they're like the fingers on a hand. They tie in an absolutely essential way. And we're absolutely committed to moving forward on all fronts. But you should all remember that charge I gave at the end of the sermon this morning. You're all the membership committee. All of you encounter people who have a spiritual community-size hole in their life. All of you have opportunities to invite. And you certainly have the opportunity to make sure that the people who gather with us on a Sunday morning as visitors and inquirers are indeed welcomed. I'm going to see if I can't do an adult religious education course this spring that meets the needs, not only of those of you who are more experienced and well-established UUs, but the people who are just getting to know us and who are seriously in discernment. I love getting a card this morning, in discernment about joining. So you've got great prospects. Let's carry forward. We'll figure out next year, toward the spring, I suspect, whether it's time for you to do the business of electing a search committee. I always recommend electing search committees, by the way, so that they really are empowered by the whole congregation, and whether it makes sense for you then to go into a search for a longer-term pastoral minister to be resident here.